Okay, another question we got. There's been an uptick in natural disasters recently. Right? We've seen a lot of things from hurricanes, earthquakes, etc. How important is it at this time for us to reconnect with nature? And at this upcoming retreat, we're going to be doing a burial. How or what role does a burial play in us reconnecting with nature?
It's an interesting question, especially the way you put it. You said there's been an uptake in natural disasters, right? I would argue just the opposite. I would argue that there was a natural disaster, which is that people were being moved further and further and further away from nature. And so what has happened is nature has gotten louder. You are moving too far away from me. Let me come and embrace my children. You see?
I see.
So we have created artificial society, moving further and further away from nature. You know? It's like we like air conditioning. It's not natural. You know? We like driving cars on paved roads. We don't think of how does this affect the earth? We don't even think of how much pavement in the environment causes toxicity to the air that we breathe. We are now having a discussion about global warming because the change in the temperature, nature is talking back, is forcing us to remember that, oh, that's right, we're actually dependent on nature. So the natural disaster was the movement from the natural. And our recovery is being forced on us by nature itself, which is just simply showing us a reflection of how far we are away from it. When I say nature, I'm talking about order. I'm talking about existing within an ecosystem where there are rules and where these substances of the ecosystem are in place to enhance our survival over a long period of time, eternal life, versus our tendency to try to make up an environment, an artificial created environment, because of convenience, so that we don't have to work as hard. Now, once we are realizing, ooh, I'm further and further from nature, I'm further and further from order, I'm further and further from the substance of life, what it's made of. How do we get back? Well, of course, the answer is going to be get back to nature, right? And if you think about it, some people have their way of doing that, but most people, it's almost like maybe once a year they go on vacation or something and they go out into nature.
To the beach or something.
You know, go to the beach or something like that. But most people are not really intentionally interacting with nature, being close to nature. Exceptions would be people who do farming, athletes maybe who are involved in water sports or other sports that require them to interact with the ground. People who are like forest rangers, you know, and hunters, especially hunters. But for the most part, people are not too involved in nature. They're far away. So the burial is just one example, and the reason why the burial becomes very important is because the fact that we're out of touch with nature means that we're out of touch with our roots. Because nature is our roots. We are created out of nature. Everything in nature ultimately is a part of our composition. The most important aspect of nature being that we're on the earth is the earth itself, or what we call the ground. And we know that in everyday functioning, being grounded, this now we went from physical grounding to psychological grounding. That being grounded is important for proper functioning. How do we get back to psychological groundedness? Well, the first and quickest method for that is to actually spend time back in the ground. And so the burial does several things. The fact that we even use the term burial means that we're putting something to death. And in life, nature is showing us that change operates through death, conception, evolution, decay, death, conception, evolution, decay, cycles, right? And so we can enter a cycle anywhere, but the most appropriate place to enter a cycle would be at the crossroad between death and conception. Especially if we're interested in starting a new phase of our lives. And we say we want to change, or we want to grow, we want to create a new pattern, which you have to do in order to change, which will lead to growth, then something has to die. And so the concept of going back into the earth, back into the womb, back into the place of beginnings, psychologically affects us, as well as being in the earth, literally the energy of the earth actually, which the body itself is made of, actually produces an effect in the body. It actually enhances the immune system. It actually causes our energy to be grounded, so that as we build and as we change, we're actually starting from a place of balance after we've lived in a fairly unbalanced manner for a certain period of time. So grounding always is the beginning of the next phase of change.